So welcome to another episode of Merge Xtra. I'm excited about today's episode. Today we have a financial fraud expert. I'm going to read his official title because I don't want to get this wrong. Haitham is currently the Associate Vice President of Fraud Risk Management Department in one of the local banks. He's also a certified fraud examiner and board member of Association of Certified Fraud Examiners in Oman. And he is a financial crime educator who holds many professional certifications in areas of financial crime risk management, including anti-money laundering and financial crime prevention. So after that introduction, Haitham, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, I'm excited because I personally have many questions when it comes to financial fraud. But before we get into the questions, maybe define what financial fraud is.
So let's start with defining fraud is. So
Okay.
unlike errors and mistakes, financial fraud is intentional and deliberate act that could cause damage or loss to another individual or entity. So, and financial fraud or fraud in general, there are three types of fraud. So, internal fraud that happens within an organization, that employee does some act within the organization. There is another type which is external fraud, which means an internal party does fraud to an organization. It could be somebody's trying to hack their systems. And then we have the third type, which is collusion, when two people collude, could be one from internal and one from external, try to collude and, for example, benefit from that act by forging documents, hacking their systems, and many more.
Okay, the last example. So for example, it's like someone wants to do a financial crime and he gets someone from the bank to help him. Like this would be an example?
Not necessarily from the bank, from any institutions, I would
Okay.
say. The third one could be somebody's trying to acquire somebody within the bank or within that institutions to help him out. Let's say, for example, somebody's trying to benefit from a deal within that organization. Let's say a contract. So he knows somebody from that organization and he contacts that person. So he say, we want to win that contract. How about you getting a 500 riyal as a bribe or as a gift to maybe pass that contract to us? So you have two people,
Colluding.
one colluded, exactly. One is within the organization and the other is outside.
Okay, I have a question that's a bit... Now, would people actually do something that's this illegal for just 500 riyals? Like, have you ever seen that?
I mean, we see a lot of cases. It could go lower than that amount as well.
So people have done really illegal financial fraud
Of course.
for lower than 500
For lower
riyals?
than that amount, yes.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like it's such a small amount to risk going to jail for.
You're absolutely right. You know, here people are taking just 50 riyal,
Oof.
thinking that they're going to pay it tomorrow. And eventually that will be discovered. And once it's discovered, I mean, the case goes to the court and you know the rest.
Jail,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there a lot of financial fraud cases here in Oman? Do you come across many?
I would say there are. There are cases which are reported.
Okay.
There are cases which are settled within their organizations. When I say settled, it could be not actually reported, unfortunately. In the past, it used to happen that some organizations are not reporting their actual frauds. So
The
if they
internal
have-
fraud.
Yeah, the internal fraud. What happens, they try to settle it within their parties, within their employees, and ask the employee to leave the organization. But nowadays, we are seeing statistics from the authorities where the numbers are, I would say, not majority are from financial fraud, but we have bounce check, for example.
Okay.
Somebody's trying to issue a check knowing that the check is insufficient, but he's trying to issue it because he's trying to, manipulate with that act.
What are the common cases of financial fraud that you've seen here in Oman?
I would say if we don't talk about external fraud or fraud that happens to the public, let's say, one of the things we always heard, and I'm not sure, Liana, have you ever received a call or message, somebody trying to pretend that they are from
the
banks or government?
Yes.
These are a common type of fraud that happens. So what happens? You receive a call. Somebody is claiming to be from the bank or from any telecom communication company, asking you to share some details, telling you and advising you that you won a prize. And in order to get that prize,
you have to share your bank details.
You have to share your bank
details.
Or,
your bank card is blocked.
That's absolutely another example.
So please give me your details so I can unblock your card.
Yeah, but in that example, you won't be receiving a call. You will be receiving an SMS or a WhatsApp message saying that in case you wanted your bank card not to be blocked and to be activated, then just reach out to this number. So what usually people do is they call that number thinking that this is a bank or a telecom or whatever institution.
Okay, so how do we know that it's a fraudster and not the actual bank? Like, how can we tell?
Very good question. I would say you have red flags that you need to watch out, be careful. Banks and telecom company won't ask you for personal details outside their official channels. When I say official channels, I mean your visit to the branch, your visit to their showroom, to their offices.
So never over the phone.
Over the phone, you won't be asked like OTP number, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, your card details, your card number, your CVV, for example. The 3 digits at the back of your card. That's a very secure number. Nobody knows it except the card holder. So in that case, banks and institutions in general won't ask you to share that information. And in case they do, that will be through their official channels. That could be their call center when you call them, not the other way around.
So if it's the official bank number, you know you're safe. However, if it's an outside number,
I would maybe put a disclaimer here, because in the past we used to see cases of I would say companies calls that people make using spoofing technologies.
What's spoofing?
So what is spoofing? So let's say, for example, Liana, if I call you from Oman and from my number, you're going to see my caller ID number, right?
Yeah.
Which is my number. And the code, which is plus 968, the country code. If they use a spoofing tool, let's say outside the country, and they try to pretend that they're calling from an institution, they can do that.
So the number that comes up on your phone would be a different number?
A different number, as if they're calling from a legitimate government entity or a bank, or could be an institution that you had business with, or this is their number. But I would say something. We are very lucky here in Oman that we have our telecom regulators who had worked very hard to block those tools, whether in Android or the iOS Apple Store. So cases of that are very minimal. I would say minimal to zero cases that you have but there is a possibility of that happening. So
try not to give your details over the phone anyway, because you never know. Even if it looks like an official number.
True.
And it's not likely to happen here in Oman, it could happen.
It could happen.
Okay, so that's one way to be careful in this.
Yes.
Okay, what's another kind of
another kind of fraud, and especially today, talking about investments, and I'm not an financial planner, but I would say a lot of people get into online investment, into crypto, into different cryptocurrencies. They are not aware whether they are investing their funds into a legitimate websites. So they end up investing in a website where they promise that they're going to pay them very high returns at the first few months, and then after a few months, when they fill with that funds, they're going to just close up and they run away. and then eventually they want to open another website.
Do the same thing
Do
all
the
over again
same-
to different victims.
exactly.
How can we tell that this is not a legitimate place for me to invest my money in?
You can always tell that if this is a legitimate deal or not a legitimate. There are red flags that you need to watch out.
Okay.
So the first red flag, if there is a very high return, if they are promising a very high return for you, let's say for example, if they are saying invest 1,000 and you will be getting 100 riyal every month. That's
Okay.
one. The second thing, if they're linking their investment into asking you to help them to run that investment, and that we call it pyramid fraud type, which happens that you ask, for example, you get into the founder of that investment, opens the investment, and then recruits additional 2 members. So these 2 members, when they want to be in this investment portfolio, they have to contribute, let's say, 100 riyal each to be a member of this investment. So this founder will take 200. And in order for these 2 to benefit from this investment, the founder will ask them to recruit additional members. So they have to recruit members in order to earn from that investment.
Okay.
So these 2 have to recruit additional, each 2, in order to get the funds back, the investment that they made, and they make profit for it. And this is another, I would say, illegal case.
Is this always illegal? Or are there, because it seems like a blurred line,
Okay.
because I've seen personally, like I have been approached in a way where they made it sound like it's legal and everyone's doing it. I didn't get into anything,
Okay,
but
that's good.
I'm putting that as a disclaimer
That's good.
because it seemed too.
Too good to be true.
No, astaghfirullah, they look like a cult. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but the way
Yes.
they look, like, let everyone join, you know,
Sure.
that kind of thing
Sure.
looked scary to me. I mean,
Sure.
like, hello, talk normally, you know?
True.
But the concept was exactly what you had mentioned, you know, you pay a certain amount to get in, and now the more people you get, the more you earn. And each person will have to pay, and eventually all the money goes like up. It goes to the
True.
person at the top because he recruited you recruited them, and all that.
Exactly.
But there's like what I noticed is that the people who get into this have like a desperation to get more people. I don't know. It's like a
Because you're absolutely right. Because
Yeah.
what happens? The founder has to pay paid a certain amount whenever a new recruiter joins the investment. Let's say, for example, we have recruited 2 members. Each has paid 100 riyal, and they have to recruit additional 4 in total, 2, each 2. So when they recruit, they have to pay 100 each, right? So this 400 goes back to the new members and to the founder. So every time new members get added,
the people on the top get more
get
and more and
more
more.
and more. So this is eventually, this is not an investment.
Yeah,
Right?
and it's
Because
something you're stuck with.
They don't have a product, they don't have a service that they are offering. And in fact, they have a complex structure of commission because everybody is earning something. And in case if you want to earn something, you have to bring more people.
What about the ones that are actually selling products? Because there is a company that I know of that is actually selling a product.
We have, I personally been approached by a company, by people who asked me to purchase or to join their investment by purchasing a nutrition kit.
I
and
think we're
that-
talking about the same one.
Yeah, so a nutrition kit that costed around $500 to $600 at that time. And I mean, if I've been onboarded to that investment, the person who onboarded me will be getting a commission. And as if they are working with that company, right? So, and in order for me to earn, I have to recruit someone else. So this goes on and on.
So
there
even
is
this
no
is
actual-
illegal when they're actually selling a product. Is this also considered illegal?
This is not this. They try to link it with
A product. Okay.
In this case, in Oman, we don't allow that.
So even that here is
It
prohibited.
is prohibited. We don't allow that.
Okay.
Because I mean, the price of that product is not actually there.
What they're saying, like they're
saying.
over-exaggerating it.
Exaggerating that amount. The second thing, you have a very complex structure of commissions that being paid to the previous members, right? So, till the founder of that business or the investment, which is not to be the case. I mean, the other thing is that the high returns that they promise you at the beginning of the investment.
You don't see that.
Of course, you won't see that. And
Okay.
eventually, you're going to see this collapse because they have to recruit people.
صح.
If they stop recruiting people, the people at the top won't be getting anything, right? In this model.
Okay, so the whole model is built on consistently recruiting.
Recruiting.
Once recruiting stops,
Exactly.
everything falls
Everything
apart.
falls apart.
So if anyone wants to get into a pyramid scheme, they should keep that in mind. That if
Exactly.
this stops, everything else,
Everything.
all your money's gone.
Gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's-
And I
yeah.
want to give you an example that happened last year. I'm not sure if you heard it. The Z Media.
I heard it. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So Z
Okay.
Media is a company that they ask people to join their investments. So what happens if you want to invest in that company and be a member and a sort of an employee? You have certain activities that you need to do. So you invest, you deposit a small amount,
Okay.
and in order to earn money from that investment, you have to do certain activities or tasks that is assigned to you based on the amount that you have invested. Let's say if you have invested $21, $50, you have a certain task that you do every day.
Task like what, for example?
Let's say. So the first task would be liking or subscribing to their social media channels,
Okay.
like TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. And whenever you subscribe, you need to like that content, for example, any content, and
Okay.
take a picture of it and upload it to that platform. And once you upload that to the platform, you will be earning $1 for each task, for example.
Okay.
So the more tasks you do, the more you earn.
Okay, and they would do that for like marketing purposes. Like the more you post that.
Perfect. So
Uh-huh.
there are two objectives in that. The first thing, they ask you to do that because they want to make earnings from the advertisement and
Okay.
then the social media likes, because the more likes and comments and subscription, the benefits that they get from that. The second thing, they need to do it because they want to delay paying you back the amount that you have invested, right? Because I'm sure you have invested more than the amount that you will be earning. You have invested $21, let's say, and you are earning $1 per task,
Okay.
which will take time for them to, recover the amount to you back. So this is another case that happened in Oman last year, I would say.
Has there been an example of people who have invested in Z Media and lost everything?
We have heard it in the social media where people tweeted that they have lost funds, and there were people who discussed about it, that they were part of the Z Media, and one fine day they opened the platform and the platform is not working. Actually,
Okay.
the platform itself was not registered in Android and iOS platform. So this was outside these tools. So it was sort of a free application that they used outside this main authenticated stores.
Okay. Okay, this is interesting. Lena, this is one of these financial fraud schemes that's difficult because of the complicated structure that they use.
True.
Okay, another thing that I find like difficult to understand is money laundering.
Okay.
One of your areas of expertise, I believe.
True.
So can you... I don't think a lot of people actually know what money laundering means. But can you
Sure.
maybe briefly like define or describe what money laundering is?
So very briefly, I would say that money comes from illegal source and gets into financial system. So to simplify that, source of funds that are received
Like drugs, for example?
from drugs, from
Okay.
any illegal activity, are tried to be entered into the financial system.
Okay, as like we have taken this money in a legal way.
Legal way. So what happens if this funds are coming from, let's say, drugs or any illegal activity, the person tries to enter it in the financial institutions, let's say banks, and then using the bank to layer that funds, launder that funds, as if to make it look like it's a clean fund. So what they do is they try to purchase lands. They try to
Does the bank ask them, where did you get the money to purchase that land?
The bank has a right to ask them, and the regulations in Oman are very clear in terms of asking them these type of questions. And there is a clear policies, there is a clear law in the country about money laundering.
Okay. It's layered. It's a layered issue.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to investigate something like this? How do you doubt, for example, what would make you suspicious that, okay, this person might be committing money laundering?
So I want to say, you have a customer profile, right? You know that this customer earns 500 riyal.
From his salary, his monthly salary, okay.
And eventually, he receives a lot of funds.
Okay.
In the account. That's one of the red flags or
the telltale signs, yani.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second thing would be somebody making a lot of cash deposits.
Okay.
You don't know where is these funds are coming from, right? So these are, examples, I would say, that financial institutions has to look at when it comes to money laundering, because there are a lot of typologies and scenarios where money laundering can happen. Not necessarily through cash. It could be through any other assets. It could be from cash from a purchase of lands and then selling that lands to another person with not exactly the same amount. Right?
Okay, like for example, you bought the land for 20,000 and you sell it to someone for 40?
You can do that because you can either lower the amount or increase the amount.
Why would someone lower the amount?
Perfect. If you lower the amount, which means that you're trying to, if you lower the amount, let's say you try to show that this is a transaction that is done legitimately, and you're trying to enter these funds to the system. Let's say, for example, besides the lands, I would say purchase of goods.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have heard of goods that are sold for a very minor, small amount, let's say 100 paisa, 300, 500 paisa. And they're actually not 100, 300 or 500 paisa. They're actually more than that, right?
Okay.
So this is one of the examples where people try to lower the price in order to inject more money to the bank, right? So they have goods that they bought from the source of illegal sources, and these funds, if they sell this item with exactly the same price, the amount they're going to deposit at the bank will look suspicious, right?
Okay.
So instead of 1 million that getting deposited in the bank, it's better that I lower the price to get maybe 100,000. And for me, 100,000 is much better than getting nothing.
Okay, I'm going to rephrase what you said to see if I understood it, and tell me if what I understood is sah.
Please.
Okay, so now this person has gathered a large amount of money illegally.
Yes.
And he wants to cover that up.
Yes.
So what he does is he'll, for example, buy some goods with that money, and then he'll resell it at a lower price just so that he can show the bank, see, I got this money by selling my products.
Exactly.
Okay, so the purpose is to show, like...
That's one of the reasons. Because what happens, you get asked by banks and financial institutions about your source of funds, right?
Okay, how did you make this money?
Exactly.
Okay.
If you go back, where did you get funds to purchase these goods? That will be the next question,
Okay,
right?
so investigators would look into the back
Fair
steps.
back
يعني.
steps to
Okay.
it. So to avoid
that's so
that,
interesting.
yeah,
That's
so
why
to-
people get away with it for years.
Yes,
Like the big cases we hear, like Madri, I don't want to start mentioning names, but like
Yes.
many big cases that we hear, it's like they've been investigated for years before they were able
True.
to get caught.
True. Because I would say financial crime cases will take years to discover. Because you need to go back, and the moment you go back, it is very complicated to establish whether there was an actual fraud or actual money laundering or any breaches of sanctions or any sort of financial crimes. So going back will take time.
There are consequences for this.
Definitely.
In general.
Definitely.
Okay, like, can you briefly maybe, like, what are examples of some of the consequences people can get if they get caught in a financial fraud, from anything from bounce checks to money laundering to...
I would say this is more of a legal thing, but
Okay.
as a
General.
financial fraud, anti-financial fraud expert, I would say the penal code criminalizes all type of frauds, and depending on
The
type,
severity?
yeah,
Okay.
depending on the type of fraud and the funds involvement and other things that they look at, the punishment and fines are imposed. So
It
all,
could include jail.
of course.
Okay, so many times, like, someone would do a financial crime, something
it's-
small,
Yeah.
and they can end up in jail for years because of this.
Course.
So
If it's established financial crime, including fraud and money laundering, the Omani penal code is very clear. It
Criminalizes it, okay.
all type of this.
So it's
kind
not
of
worth
offense.
it, يعني, for quick money that many people do. Just
Yeah.
the calls. Wallah, stop the calls. The calls, madam, your card is blocked.
True.
Allah, these
True.
like there's so many right now. Like you report one number, they come up with 50 different numbers.
True.
But
True.
like, if any of you are watching this, please stop calling us. You're gonna go to jail. That's like the number one thing I would like to get
Sure.
established. Advance in technology, credit cards, online shopping, all that stuff. Many of us engage in that, and then we do a safeguard for future use, so you don't have to put in your card details every single time you order. Some of us order food, some of us order, which is like almost a daily thing. Some of us order other stuff from websites where we're used to ordering. We don't want to continuously put our card. There have been times where these platforms get hacked and our information gets stolen. How do we protect ourselves from that?
Very good question. I would say there are risks associated with saving your cards at any platform that you do.
Okay.
When I say saving your card, means you're open yourself, your card details to hackers and scammers, as you rightly mentioned. And to avoid that, don't save your details, because
So every single time you use the platform, you
that
put
would
in
be
your card
perfect.
details.
That would be a good idea to do that.
Okay.
Although maybe we haven't heard of big companies getting their
Platform
data hacked or breached.
Okay.
But we also have seen cases where, or known, that there are possibility of this happening. So at the end of the day, I would say it's better not to save it, because it's just less than a minute that takes you to enter the card details each time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the save your card for future use option should be avoided if possible
If
for this
possible.
reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
else?
speaking about cards, I think it's important that the audience as well knows that card fraud is increasing, because if you share, there are two scenarios that card fraud normally happens. One scenario, if somebody calls you
Okay.
and voluntarily you share your details, including your CVV and OTP and everything, and then you end up losing your money. Here, you have a liability. The liability is on the card holder. That loss is on the card holder. Whereas the second scenario, if you have established or identified that there is a transaction that happened through your account,
That was not made by you?
not made by you, exactly,
Uh-huh.
which is unauthorized or unknown transaction to you. In that case, what you need to do is raise a dispute to your bank, to the
So
bank
they can
that
block your card.
So that first they block your card.
Okay.
The second thing they do, they're gonna raise that dispute to their the payment brand systems, which is, for example, Visa, Mastercard, or any card that you are using.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna approach that institutions, and they try to get your funds back.
Oh, there is a possibility for your
if-
funds to come back.
Yeah, if in case
Uh-huh.
this is unauthorized transaction and you haven't voluntarily shared any details, and they have discovered this is unsecure transaction for the bank, they can help you out to reach to the payment brand through their payment brands to help you out to get the funds back. So there is a possibility
Mm-hmm.
of that scenario happening in case you haven't voluntarily shared your data.
Okay. So you should always report it, yani.
You should always report it, regardless if you have shared it, if you have shared your details, or you haven't shared it.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because if you shared it, you need to report to the bank. You need to change the card first of all, and then get your card replaced, and then you can report to the bank that you made a loss. The bank might not be able to help you, but you will be notifying the bank.
Yeah.
In the other scenario, if you have never shared the details, you have backed by chargeback right, because there is a Visa regulations, there is a brand payment regulations like Visa and MasterCard help you out for unauthorized transactions if those transactions are not made by you and you haven't shared your CVV, your OTP, and your sensitive details.
Okay. Okay, so again, keeping on the same topic of advance of technology, like مثلا now we have cards, now we have these different platforms where you can potentially be a victim of financial fraud. New ways or new methods of stealing from people are coming up. As a financial fraud expert, how do you keep up with it, and how do you keep the public aware of مثلا a new method of financial fraud that's coming up?
I think what we do as a financial fraud experts, we read, we attend seminars, we talk with different experts in the same area outside our country.
Okay.
When we get associated by sharing reports, again, not confidential reports, but we share any modus operandi that happened in their jurisdictions, they can share it with us.
So a lot of knowledge sharing between you guys. Okay.
And that happens through conferences, very customized programs that sometimes delivered by experts. And I think it's worth mentioning that we have association like Certified Fraud Examiner Associations, where they also publish reports of new trends and new methods of fraud happening. And here in Oman, we also do have a chapter, and through chapter, we do raise awareness to the public.
So what is this exactly? So it's like a...
So the Association of Certified Fraud Examiner, where I am a member of it, is a US-based. We do have a small office here in Oman, and that office is under the sponsorship of the College of Banking and Financial Studies.
Okay.
In this chapter, what we do is we raise awareness to our members and to our public through flyers, to the social media, posters, and we're also working, we also deliver webinars and sometimes yearly seminars. So through these platforms, we share knowledge to the public. And the other good thing is that we are here. We are sharing the media plays a significant role in terms of sharing knowledge to the public and including the social media.
Okay. Do you find that it's easy? So, for example, one of the reasons I went into asking you about money laundering is because before you came in, I asked a number of people, like, money laundering is something we hear like every day. It's in the news, it's in movies we watch, it's in everything. So I asked them, like, do you know what money laundering is? I can guarantee you like half of them did not know what money laundering actually is. a lot of people have, that I know personally, have fallen into the credit card fraud. Oh, your bank card is blocked. Here you go, you know. Despite your awareness campaigns stuff, it's still, many people still fall into it, especially when it's a new method, you know.
Sure.
Like now we're talking about this, for example, the calls, the different methods and everything. This is something that, okay, maybe now it's been here for a while. People are kind of aware that, okay, this is one of the tricks. Do you find that it's easy to spread the awareness when it's a new method that hasn't been done before, to tell the public? Like, do you find that they listen, yani?
I would say fraudsters are ahead of everything that we try to do.
So every time you figure something out, they try something new.
To do something. But despite saying that, the technology itself, sometimes I would say technology is a double-edged sword for financial fraud. It's good that we have technology. We accelerated the transformation, digitalization. People use online banking and all of that. But on the other side, they can be misused, right? For example,
so
the voice note that I have received, for example, can be cloned and can be used through different platforms, right?
Okay.
As if you made a transaction. Let's say, for example, in some countries they have this chat bot.
Okay.
Right? They have call bots, right? And if, let's assume, somebody calls you and you are a member of that institution, let's say you have an account with that particular bank, not in Oman, but I'm saying outside Oman.
Okay.
And they have your voice notes. They can clone that voice note and use it as affirmation to selling a product or accepting that you are purchasing a product or issuing a credit card or, sort of affirmation or a response that they can use.
Okay.
I would maybe like to give you an example of, few years ago we have heard of a scam called Can You Hear Me?
Okay.
So Can You Hear Me is a scam that happened outside the country, where you receive a call and you pick up the phone and you hear nothing, silence. And then you hear a girl is asking you, can you hear me? And you say yes. And that yes is used as an affirmation into any other platforms. So they try to use, they know that you're dealing with one of their, let's say, financial institutions, and they have your details. They use your voice.
Oh, because
you
said yes.
The transaction, right? Because the voice recognition plays a role. So that's another side of the technology, right?
Oh, they're smart.
The technology is good to use. But we need to be very careful in terms of how and when and to whom we are using this technology. So the voice note itself, for example, the voice note that you're sending through WhatsApp, that can be used also.
Okay. That's a very interesting example. Do you have any more examples of financial fraud cases? Do you have anything local maybe?
I think the most common thing we've heard is somebody trying to pretend that they're from official entities like banks and all of that. This is most of the, I would say, common fraud case that happens in the country. We've heard of forgery. We have heard of misuse of positions.
Forgery, like...
forging some documents.
Okay. So, for example, in a company, مثلا, someone forges their name.
Somebody tries to forge a document, forge a check, temper a check, for example, sign on a check. We have heard of... Have you heard of... what's that? Ink.
What's
the
that?
Magic ink.
The pen that you can erase?
Yes.
Okay.
Or automatically gets erased.
Okay, explain.
So this is one of the common fraud that happened, or method used by fraudsters in, I would say, in Asia, including India and other countries, where you are asked to sign a document, right? And you sign a document and you write on the document, let's say that document is a check or any payment instruction. And you sign on the document using their pen and you write the amount. What they do is they write the amount with the magic ink, and then once you go and leave that office, they change the amount.
So I wanted to give them like 10 riyals and they wanted $1 million. They just changed it to $1 million.
It to $1 million or 1,000.
Well, astaghfirullah, but that's genius.
Yeah, so that's another way. So that's why you need to be very careful when you sign documents. You should be using your own pen. Especially if you're into deals and contracts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any other?
The other thing, especially we are in vacation, and I'm sure there are our listeners, our audience are going to vacations. I would say ATM fraud. The ATM fraud also could happen to our local residents. In case if you're traveling outside and you want to withdraw money, just make sure that your machine that you're using is in a city or in a place that's appropriate place. It's not in a place where you suspect. Watch out if there is a device installed in that machine.
Really?
Yes.
So
it could be that in some cases, especially the ATM fraud happens when a device is installed in that machine. And these banks, especially, they don't have the mechanism to detect such a devices.
So what would the solution be?
You end up using, although you are protected, but you end up using their machine, their ATM. What happens when you enter the PIN? There is a camera that captures the PIN, and there is a reader that reads your card details. So they have the card details, they have your PIN, they can issue a card, a counterfeit card. But the good news is that in Oman, the cards are chip-based.
Okay.
Right?
And this is not everywhere. This is just here in Oman?
The majority of countries, they have
chip-based cards.
But a few countries, they still haven't implemented the chip-based cards.
Okay.
The advantage of using chip card, you need the card to be present first, and then the chip is a secure tool that is imposed in the card. So this is one of the
things you should be careful about.
But
then, okay, how would I be careful? So I'm traveling. I want to withdraw money from an ATM. This is a different country. How do I know which is a good ATM, which isn't?
You can withdraw from airports. You can withdraw from, as I stated, you can withdraw from any ATM. Just be careful which ATM you're withdrawing from.
If it's not in a suspicious place, yani?
Exactly.
Okay.
Whether this is actually an ATM.
Okay.
Right? Because there could be a machine that is there, but which is actually not an ATM, which is not belonging to a bank.
Okay,
right?
Just looks like.
It looks like a ATM.
Okay.
In that case, you need to be very careful which ATM machine you're actually using, right? So where exactly you're withdrawing cash.
Okay. Is important for you to be careful about. Well, I'm smiling because
you are about to do that.
No, I wouldn't even. Okay, so like for example, there are certain types of financial fraud that many of us are aware of. But some of the things you mentioned now, like can you hear me, like the ATM, these are things I've never heard of, So it gets scary thinking, you could be. Everyone thinks, I'm too smart to fall for this, but they can get you in different ways.
Of course.
And I didn't know that.
And speaking about, can you hear me? I mean, in today's technology, for example, the artificial intelligence can be used in favor of that. They can use the artificial intelligence in terms of creating a voice note.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
Of you. If they have a smaller version of your voice note. They can
Okay,
do
so
that.
they can even make it sound like you're saying things that you've never said
Never
using
said.
your voice.
Of course, that's the use of artificial intelligence. If they can, if they want to use it, they can use it.
Okay. I'm going to go back to one thing. The credit card. Someone using your credit card, for example. Sometimes it's very obvious. A huge transaction has been made in your name. Okay, and you know that you have not done that transaction. Okay, it's easy to catch. You call the bank, cancel my card, someone's using it. What if your card has been compromised, but it's... How can you know that your card's being compromised if that didn't happen, if a huge transaction did not happen in your name? Is there a way for me to tell that, oh, my card is hacked, or someone has my card details or something like that?
I would say maybe you won't be able to know it immediately.
Okay.
But if you can do few things that help you out to, protect yourself from being or falling a victim of card fraud, for example. The first thing, you need to be regularly reviewing your bank statement or credit
So
card
we should be looking
statement
at our bank
reference.
statements.
At least once a month.
Okay.
Whether you have done this transaction. The second thing you can do is look at or enable your SMS and email options where you receive notifications.
Every single time the card is used.
The card is used, you're going to receive an SMS notification or even email notification. In case you're outside the country, you're going to receive both.
Okay.
Yeah, so make sure that your roaming internet option is enabled on so that you receive notification if you're abroad. Yeah, so those are the two things that you can do. And the third thing is don't shop or use the card in suspicious websites.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that you will be using your cards in one website that you are suspecting of, then I would suggest maybe use a card with a very small amount in it, right? Like you can take a prepaid card or an internet card and put a 10 riyal, for example, and do the shopping.
Mm-hmm.
If you have that suspicious. If you have the suspicious, I would say don't shop.
Okay.
Don't use it.
Would you advise people who are regular online shoppers in many different platforms to, for example, have a card that's like a prepaid card that's specific only for online transactions?
They can do that.
Okay.
I would.
So worst case scenario, something happens.
Highly recommend you do that. You don't use your ATM, your debit card, because your debit card has your savings, has your salary, has everything in it. So it's better to have a specific separate card where you use it for online purchases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any other financial fraud?
The other thing that maybe used to happen in the past about fake notes.
Okay. Do we have that now a lot?
Not really, but I don't have the statistic to share with.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, and this is a common thing that happened in the past, that if you are next to an ATM or next to a place and people will ask you, do you have a change denominations, for example, of 50 note to 20 or 10? There might be cases where somebody has a fake note of 50 trying to sell it to you so that you give them a genuine note and you end up
with the fake
note. So in that case, you just be careful how you deal with that situations. It's good that we always say that sharing is caring, but not always, right?
Is there a way to tell that this is fake money for the general public?
I mean, there are security patterns in every note
that we would be able to see, and tell as regular
as a public. There are few. Maybe you can notice through the quality of the note, the pictures, the line that it has, the size, and all of that. But
so we should make sure we know what a real note looks like, and in case, just make sure you're not exchanging fake notes.
Yes,
you should be able to tell.
You should be able. And the other thing, I think this is a new habit that people have, that whenever somebody gives you cash, you don't count it or don't review it or don't see it, right?
Because it looks aib. Like
exactly.
someone, for example, gives you an amount, and like I've actually had someone tell me, "You don't trust me,"
Exactly.
and then I had to say straightforward, like, "No, I don't.
It's not.
I don't know you."
It has nothing to do with that. But you don't know. Maybe you end up facilitating fake note deals, right? If you receive that fake note, and then you exchange it with another individual, then you are part of it unknowingly. Right? So you should be very careful on even this minor habit that we have
of not
checking.
And don't get offended. Like, one thing I would say, don't get offended, because they try to put you in a difficult spot.
Exactly.
But when they try to put you in a spot and you have the right to check the money you receive, you should not feel awkward at all.
True.
I don't feel awkward saying it to someone's face. Like, so yes, I don't know you.
If you are in a petrol station and you're trying to pay through cash, not card, for example, and they give you your change back, just check them. Right? Whether they are genuine, not genuine, if you have a doubt.
Or even sometimes, like, there's
or
this
less,
thing.
Maybe less,
exactly.
Right?
Like, sometimes what they would do is they give it to you in so many small notes. Like 1 riyal, 1 riyal, 1 riyal, 1 riyal. So you're like, I'm not going to count this. Yeah, but this is a trick I've actually seen. And then, worst case scenario, you don't have to get into a fight. Just tell them the money's missing.
True.
That's it.
True.
But this is a thing that I've seen even done with me, which is why I, for example, personally do check.
True.
I have the time to sit there and count, so it's fine.
Yeah, we should have that habit. I mean, I know it looks awkward that we count cash in front of people that.
But this is a transaction that just took place.
This is a transaction, right?
Yeah.
And you might not be aware where this can lead you to, right?
But if someone gets caught, for example, God forbid, I went somewhere and I actually had a fake note that I didn't know was fake.
Yeah.
The police comes and catches me with the fake note. And I say, I swear I don't know where this came from.
True.
Am I getting in trouble for this?
You need to prove that, right?
How do I prove? I don't even know it was with me in the first place.
So the first thing that you need to prove where this amount you got from, right? So that's the first question they're going to ask you. And I'm sure, according to their investigations and the way
they'll be able to tell, for example.
They will be able to tell
Okay.
whether you were part of it or you're outside of it. I mean, we had a lot of cases, I think, in the country in the past where people got involved into fake notes, for example, from petrol stations. Because what happens at the petrol station, you don't check anything, right? You just take the amount and put it in your wallet. That's all.
Okay. I'm scared to ask you if there is anything else, because now I feel paranoid.
No, you should not be.
Like, it's good for us to know.
Exactly. You should be vigilant, careful,
taking your precautions.
Yeah, these are precautions. I mean, you need to be very careful in terms of dealing with others. In terms of financial, even for applying a job. Let me give you an example.
Oh God!
Even if you're applying for a job, and we have this famous platforms like LinkedIn and other platforms are very famous. You should be very careful if this job advertisement is a real job advertisement or just a fake one.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first thing that you need to do as a job seeker is validate whether this account that they're publishing jobs are genuine accounts of LinkedIn, whether they have published anything in the past, whether they have certain followers in their LinkedIn page, for example. So there are things that you need to be very careful before sharing any details to them. You might end up sharing your sensitive details like your JSON, your email, and other things, and they end up sending you phishing emails.
Phishing is the hacking emails that you click on?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you end up clicking on or malicious links, or it could be any other spyware tools that they can embed in that document that they're going to send it to you.
Okay.
So you should be very careful in terms of sharing even your email, your phone number, because those are very sensitive details. I'll give you an example. Once I attended a conference, and one of their rules is when the conference finish, I have to complete an evaluation form. And then the evaluation form includes email ID. I have to write my email ID and my mobile number. And there are certain personal questions in that. So I said, why you need those information? How would you process those information? And where are you going to send this information? Are you going to, because it could be, there could be a possibility of this information get sold to any marketing agency, right? For their advertisement. So you should be very careful where and to whom you share your details.
Okay. Anything else? In terms of staying safe, in terms of anything else people should look out for?
I think I would say have your mobile SMS, email notification enabled all time. Review your transactions regularly. Never share details over unauthorized channels, including social media, because banks and telecom and any institutions won't ask you sensitive information like your card number, your CVV. Those are very secure numbers, or your expiry date. Those are or OTP, for example. Don't save your details in the website. That's one that you need to be careful. And if you have ended up losing your card, for example, just report it immediately to the bank and ensure that the card is blocked and immediately replaced with another one, so that you try to, reduce or control the damage that you maybe had in the past, like in terms of financial loss.
Okay.
Yeah.
And don't fall for the invest 10 riyals, get 5,000 tomorrow kind of schemes.
Yeah. So in that, for investment, do your homework, do your research, read, I would say. Read, ask questions. Ask questions to different people. Don't ask to the social media or to the people who are advertising it.
Okay.
Don't run about who is advertising it, whether he's an influencer, if he's a well-known. No, do your due diligence. Ask questions. And once you're asked questions, and if you're convinced, if you're halfly convinced, ask experts to help you out. You can ask financial advisors. You can ask banks. If you're willing for investment, then go to the right platform to invest. Don't run behind maybe just an advertisement of social media. Okay.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
I feel like I asked you all the questions I had, but I tried to ask the questions I think the audience would have as well. But honestly, I had so many questions about this topic myself. But thank you for being open. Thank you for answering. Thank you for raising awareness. I believe you do this in regular. I think you said you hold conferences, workshops and something like that. Huh?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and it's beneficial for people to actually attend that and learn, because apparently there's so many ways we can, have our finances used against us or something like that. So we should be aware of all these different methods, especially the fact that new ones are coming out.
Sure.
Instead of getting paranoid, we just need to stay safe, yani.
Sure.
So thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I think one of the other things that I would maybe like to share is that we have another scam that called money mule scam.
Okay.
And that happens when somebody receives or moves money that comes from victims of fraud. Let's say, for example, somebody is asked to accept funds into their account, or ask, for example, if somebody asks you to share their account number, to share your account number, so that they can send you funds. They send you funds, and you don't know whether these funds are coming from legitimate sources or maybe from illegal sources like fraud. And then these funds are moved somewhere else. So this is called money mule scam.
Okay.
Where the account that is used is used for facilitating movement of illegal funds.
Okay.
So in this case, people has to be very careful in terms of allowing somebody to send them funds and sharing their accounts, because sometimes we help people if they don't have an account. We say, okay, give me cash, and I'm okay if you can send it through the bank, and then you can take it from my account to another account. I can send it from my account to another account.
Okay.
By accepting cash, but you don't know
Where that
whether
cash
this
came from.
exactly, whether these funds are coming from legitimate sources or
Illegal
sources.
Okay, so for example, this is like I would come to you and say, Haitham, I have 500 riyals. Can I please transfer this to you, or can I give you 500 riyals cash and you transfer it to a specific bank account? So you're just the person in the middle who's doing the transaction.
This could be as simple as you said, and it could be as complicated as somebody is trying to tell you that you won a prize, but we'll send you half of that amount, and the other half you need to send it back to another person. So at the end, you will be gaining something, but unknowingly that these are source of illegal funds.
Okay, so this is the money mule.
Exactly.
Issue.
So they're going to use the account holder to facilitate the movement of funds. So this is one of the things that people should be very careful about it, because you are not aware of the source, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
If it comes from someone you know.
If you know the person and you know why they have sent you the money, and I'm sure that should be fine. You should be aware why you received the funds, right? Yeah. So you know the person.
Ask them. Why?
Ask them why they're
Why do you
sending
need me to send it?
Exactly. If they have an account, why are you getting involved into their transactions? Because if they have an account, they can send it themselves.
صح.
Yeah.
Okay.